Nice.
What's up, party people? Eddie here, and this is the postmortem for Project 4X. I know, right? I'm debating doing this the week after, or waiting an extra week so that I can then percolate on my thoughts. I'm not really in a rush to get this postmortem out, because I want to be a little more serious with it. But let's just let's go ahead and dive right into it. Let's just go ahead and eat this bad boy. Okay. Before I get too into either the positives or the negatives, just like the smaller postmortem projects or projects for other postmortems or postmortems for other projects, there we go. I'm working with a product that wasn't meant to be complete. Like those Game Jam games are just prototypes, but they took they're a lot fast. They were within a day, right? This took months, right? So I'm gonna give myself a little leeway to make sure that I'm not being too critical on the fact that it's not finished. If I was trying to make a finished product, I was making a postmortem on that, then I would absolutely be like, hey, this system isn't finished. What's the deal, right? So I'm not taking the fact that it isn't finished against me. So unfortunately, we didn't get much in terms of player feedback, so I'll be taking all of this from my own personal perspective on what, the positives, negatives, and, what I've learned on for the project has been, right? So, alright, like I said, let's go. Let's eat this bad boy.
So far beyond you! I'm like a god in human clothing!
Okay, starting with the positives. This was hard. Like, incredibly hard. And I think it goes without saying that the fact that even the fact that this even functions at all is like a positive, right? Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I'm a master programmer with 78 years of experience. I made a joke the other day about, like, when this project started, I made a joke about the fact that I was underqualified and I hadn't shown my degree. But, like, realistically, my degree would not have taught me how to do this in the slightest, right? Like, I had to learn most of this stuff while I was doing it, or it was something that I learned before, but not in class. Very rarely did I use anything I actually learned in my degree making this game. Like, straight up. Like, mostly none of it. So yeah, I'm gonna give myself credit for finishing this, or at least doing this. I'm giving myself credit, and that's an overall positive for this project. Also, as bare bones as it is, I kind of like the way I've designed it, right? Like, it's as bare bones as it is. It's kind of, it's almost a complete game. Like, it's not like a. Let me rephrase that. It's almost a complete prototype of a game, right? Like, it's almost fully functioning, right? There are some keys missing. Like I said, I'm not counting that against me, right? But the keys that are there, have merit, right? Like, as bare bones as it is, you can do basically most of the things I set out to do. You can recruit units, you can move across the board, you can actually negotiate with other factions. Granted, like I said, all those things are bare bones, but you can still do all that stuff. It's not as far as I'd hoped I would get, but I didn't say that I was gonna make a complete game, or I wanted to rail in my scope. Scope is like the hardest thing to do in making a game. Sometimes you limit yourself on what you can actually do in order to complete the project, and that makes sense, right? Like, and lastly but not least, for the positives, again, I don't think this. Oh man, I didn't really write a lot of positives for the game itself. Just more around the aspects of making a game that were positive. So there's actually a ton of potential for this game, I feel. I didn't get any comments on the video, but some of the Reddit comments I posted on the 4X subreddit, they're really nice. They're like, man, congrats, this is really hard. Like, good job. If this was a 2-year-long project, you probably could finish this. That kind of stuff. And I was like, thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. You didn't look at it, you didn't download it, you didn't play it, but you at least were somewhat positive of the fact that I even showed it to you in the first place. But yeah, so that's that. But I think, honestly, given a year or two, this probably could be an interesting release. Like, honestly, I feel like this makes more sense as a board game than it does as a like an RTS 4X game. Purely on the fact that like, that's just my opinion, honestly. Nope. We're not getting far ahead of ourselves. Let's go ahead and go to the negatives.
Man in a teensy weensy little bubble.
So, here's some of the stuff I could improve on. And again, I don't think I was that brutal on my negatives. Like, for starters, this is more of a 3X game than a 4X, like I was planning, right? So you can expand, exploit, and exterminate, but you can't explore. Like, you can grow, you can fight people, and you can take resources, but you know the entire map already, right? Even if I were to put this in the UI that I had in my head, you know, it really wouldn't be very explorative. And exploring is, at least in my opinion, the most important part of a 4X game, right? So the fact that I can't really discover anything, you know, like, that doesn't seem very fun to me, you know? Like, I imagine if you like just beating the ever-loving crap out of another faction, like, there are people out there who play Total War and conquer the map. For most people, that's not fun. Now, for some people, that is. And so I feel like a game like this would service those people more than people who play a game like Civ or any of the Paradox like strategy games. You know, those people would not probably like this game. But if you like just roaming around a map, fighting people and taking resources and really quick games, that would be people who would enjoy this game. And that in itself isn't a bad thing, but it isn't what I set out to do, and that's what makes it a negative. Now, AI. Now, this is a pretty big one for me. You know, the AI is pretty bare bones, and yeah, it's the first time I made something like this, but the way I made it is the thing I have a particular problem with. It took me 2 weeks to make what I made, which is really bare bones and not good enough personally for me to be even worth a challenge. So it's one of those things where, yes, I've never made an AI before, and yes, it took me 2 weeks, but I could have gone about it differently in a way that actually made it more complicated and actually made it less buggy. In fact, the only reason it took me 2 weeks is because I didn't know what I was doing. And I spent a week working on an AI, and then the AI broke. And so after the AI broke, I had spent a week redoing everything, right? I had to redo so much of the systems that I've coded because I didn't know what I was doing. And that's not a way you should ever approach game development or AI development or anything like that. So I should have planned for that. And it kind of goes into the next negative as well. And you know, it's like that feels super like I basically didn't make a video that week because the AI I had made was so terrible. Like, what I had made was so bad and was so buggy that I couldn't make a video because I hadn't worked on anything the entire week. Like, so that's a huge negative for me personally. And that's not really a lot of redeeming on that. Like, it's not like the other negative where I could be like, okay, this just isn't a game for me. This is like an actual problem that I need to work on. Hey, so Eddie in Post. Turns out the last 4 or 5 minutes of the video that I recorded was corrupted because my computer decided to blue screen, as it has been doing the last couple months. So I'm just gonna kind of briefly go over the last like 4 minutes and like hopefully a minute. Basically, documentation's a must. I'm gonna have to go back and I'm gonna have to learn to in my next couple projects to make sure I've documented everything so that I don't run into the same problems I had with the AI last time or this time. And things I've learned, you know, make what you play. You know, you definitely want to base your art on things that exist. You know, you want to have a reference. You don't want to just make things out of your creativity is nice. Creativity is great, but you want to improve on things, not necessarily just start from scratch. You don't want to reinvent the wheel constantly. You know, even if you were to reinvent the wheel, you have a reference. It's called a wheel. Also, you know, I'm personally getting better at this. I'm personally doing my coding is getting better. I'm keeping a better schedule when it comes to projects. I'm getting way better at Unity. I've learned a lot about Unity and programming games in general from doing these. And lastly, I've learned how to do textures. I honestly, with this entire time not understanding the textures, were programming. Didn't know. I had no idea. And now I might do more textures because now I understand how they work. Ish. Okay, let me reference that. I don't understand how they work. I know how to start learning how they work. So there you go. Alright. On to the outro. Just wanted to talk about that because literally it's the last 4 minutes of the video. I'm literally gonna go from this to the outro. So, I mean, peace.